It's recording already.
Okay, thank you.
So for this session, right, and the next 2 sessions, so basically it's going to be a 3-part series. I want to talk about something that I believe determines whether, maybe not all, but maybe almost every data governance, AI governance, or transformation program succeed or fails. Yeah. A lot of people will think it's about technology. Unfortunately, or surprisingly, it is not technology, right? It is the framework, or rather, it's not the framework as well. Yeah, and it's also not policies. Yeah, so we say that data governance is about people, process, and technology. Yeah, so it's not about the technology, it's not about the framework. Also, it's not really about the policies. It's not whether you have policies on standards or not. A lot of people think that once they have policy, once they have standards, once they have frameworks, they are doing data governance. They are not, right? What really makes data governance program fail is actually the people. Yeah, it is the people and our ability to be able to influence the behavior of those people. Yeah, believe it or not, that is really what makes data governance programs fail. After spending 26 years working in data management, and of course across all different sorts of organizations of different maturities, different industries, different environments, different continents, I've definitely seen, many organizations are investing significant amounts of money in data governance programs. Most of them fail eventually. Yeah. I've seen very, very sophisticated technology being implemented. I've seen excellent policies written, and they are very impressive. I've seen great frameworks designed. I've also watched many of them struggle, even after having all those fancy stuff, right? So the lesson for me there is very simple, which I'm trying to pass on to you today. You can implement technology overnight, but you cannot implement behavior overnight. So it takes time. Yeah. That's why I say that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. That experience, for me, shaped what I see as grounded governance. And that is why my book is called Grounded Governance. My first book is called Grounded Governance. And the AI governance is also called Grounded AI Governance, right? For you to have governance that is grounded, which means that governance that is done properly, that is started out properly, that has the right drivers behind it, dealing with the right pillars, you need to start from the reality of how organizations actually work. Yeah. So, Kemi, you're not going to get this from ChatGPT. Yeah. You need to look inwards. You need to see how organizations that are working, how they actually work. Yeah. Every company is different. People already create data. Data does not appear from heaven. There's no general overseer that can pray and data will appear. Yeah. People already create data. And people already use data. They are creating it, they are using it. The problem is not that they don't have data. They are also already making decisions anyway about data. So it's not like you're going to company and saying, oh, yes, I'm here to make you be able to, make decisions with data. No, they're already making decisions anyway. And they already protect and they already share data, believe it or not. Yeah. So that's not really our job. They're really doing all that. So if you're going in there and saying that, oh, I'm coming to help you be able to create your data, be able to use your data, to make decisions with your data, to be able to protect your data, they're thinking, we have been doing this for 37 years that this company has been in existence, right? So that's not our job. Our job isn't to turn everybody into a data governance professional. Our job is to help those people in the organizations to manage data better while doing what they already do. Yeah. So that is our job. Yeah. And that is the angle to go in to be able to get buy-in. I see a lot of people being asked at interviews that, so how do you get buy-in? How do you promote data governance? How do you talk about the importance of it? And they're talking about policies, framework, and stuff like that. No. So because of that, I've decided to talk about this today. So what we're going to do today is we are going to move beyond, looking beyond framework and looking beyond theory. Yeah. We're going to explore why people resist change, because that's the real thing, right? So I'm talking about changing behaviors. So why do they not want to change? Why do they resist the change? Why is it that governance often feels like additional work? Yeah. And why is it that technology cannot solve behavioral problems? And we as data management professionals, how do we then make governance practical? How do we make it business led? And then most importantly, to be sustainable and then human centered. What do we need to do? So what I'm trying to say here is, so they ask you something like, how do you deal with a difficult stakeholder? So difficult stakeholder probably is somebody that is resisting change. Yeah. So why do they resist? How do you solve it? You need to understand why they resist first, right? I want you to remember one sentence. Yeah. Organizations don't change. People do. So you are not going to be able to change any organization. The only thing that you are going to be able to do is to change the people. And the way to change the people is to change their behavior by understanding their perspective. Why are they adamant? Why are they being resistant to change? Yeah. If we cannot change behavior, we haven't changed the organization. So a lot of people think that, oh yeah, it's not working because it's federated. Let's change decentralized or let's go hybrid. You're fooling yourself, right? Doesn't matter what structure. If the behavior doesn't change, nothing is going to change, right? So let's start with the biggest myth I see about data governance. Yeah. So for me, these are the biggest myths, and these are the things that are probably the biggest misconceptions, right? Um, I hope at the end of this slide, I'll be able to challenge them and show you exactly why I believe that they are myths, right? So for me, usually when these data governance programs, when they struggle, they assume that it's technology. This has happened for many years. Oh, we're moving from Oracle to Microsoft to Amazon to this to that. Hire project managers, pull it down, build again. 3 years down the line, no return on investment. They pull down again. So they buy another tool. They keep buying tools. Yeah. They introduce more policies. They say, oh, because we don't have this policy, we don't have this, that. They adopt another framework. Yeah. They change the structure of the data governance approach. Or they totally implement a totally new platform. Oh, we're moving to Databricks. We are moving to this one. We're moving to that one. But after 26 years working in data management, I can tell you categorically that those things are really the fundamental problem. Yeah, they are really the fundamental problem. Eventually, when they listen and they get somebody who helps them to then dig in, see that that is not really the fundamental problem that they have. You can have the best technology in the market, you still fail. You can have beautifully written policies and nobody's really following them or nobody's even reading them. You can implement DAMA, you can implement DCAM, you can implement Colibra, you can have Purview or any other framework or tool, but none of them can really make people change their behavior. So at interviews, make sure that you are, stating categorically that it's about people, process, and the technology. You change the behavior first before you hand anybody any tool. If you give people tools and the way they see data doesn't change, nothing's going to happen. Yeah. Because data governance does not really happen inside a document. So it also does not happen inside the system. So when you see a lot of companies, they write policies, they have all the policies, they have standards, they hire consultants, they write all the documents for them, but still nothing is happening. But they're just implementing different systems of everywhere. Yeah. What really make governance happen is the people. Yeah, it's the people. This is where many get it wrong. People have to change how they work, not to change the work. Yeah. So if you are saying that, oh, we need to change your processes, you need to change this, that, no, it's not about changing the processes. It's about changing how they run the processes. Because as far as they are concerned, they run the organization. Most of them are profitable. So that means that the process is running. So why should they change? Yeah. Why should they change? They have to understand why, for example, data ownership matters. And when you talk about ownership, it's not like starting from scratch. Today, who makes the decision? Who gives access? Who authorizes for access to be given, for example? Yeah. They need to understand why the data quality is the responsibility of a finance officer. Right? What impact will a finance officer have? What impact will they create for the organization by maybe deleting a data that's and without having a question to delete it, for example? Yeah, or even creating data. Why does metadata matter? Right? Why is it important to have accountability? If they don't understand the value of governance, they will find ways around your controls. As simple as that. So it's like, for example, there is a there's a roadblock on your street. They put a temporary light there, and you don't understand why when there is the temporary light comes red, you are still expected to stop, even though you cannot see another car coming. You don't understand that it's possible that another car might be coming. Maybe there's a blind spot there, and you're going to have a head-on collision. And the implication of that is the same thing here. Yeah, people need to understand, what the value. Otherwise, your controls will be bypassed. Yeah, they will ignore your policies, and then they will treat governance as an additional bureaucracy. Yeah, so when you get into organizations or at interviews, these are the kind of things that you should be discussing before anyone should start investing money in technology platforms. Right? You need to ask some very simple, basic questions about your people. Yeah. Have you invested in the people? Do they understand their roles and their responsibilities before you go and buy a tool? Before you buy Colibra, the people that you are going to assign as owner and stewards in that Colibra, do they understand their roles or responsibilities? Have they accepted it? Yeah. Do they understand the value of having a tool? Or even at the most basic, the value of having a business glossary. Yeah. Are the ownership already established? Are they in place? Have you trained them to have the right behavior around data before you give them the tool? Your tool basically is only going to enable your data governance. It's not going to do the work. Yeah. The policies is what's going to formalize it. It's also not going to do the work. Right. So the mentality, the behavior of people is really, really very, very important. It is the people that make your data governance to work. Yeah. And for me, that is the greatest uh, misconception. Yeah. And you need to destroy it. It's not about the technology. It's not even about the framework. Yeah. So if you were asked, for example, at an interview, so if you have issues with data governance not being accepted or be embedded, or there's lack of adoption and stuff like that, a lot of people will just jump in and say, oh yeah, when I come in, I'll deliver policies, standards, because policies are what to do and what not to do. You see what I mean? So I mean, I'm going to have a framework. I will review whether we have a federated approach, or maybe that's not a good idea. We then change it to centralized approach. That's the wrong thing. Yeah, that's the wrong thing. What you need to change is the behavior of the people in the organization. Yeah. Any question from anyone before I continue? Tell me.
So, you go for some interviews and they mention what is your 90 days action plan? Is it okay to mention to them that part of the things I would do is understand the behavior or perception of people in this organization to data quality? because that takes time as well.
Correct. That's going to be your first 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Understand that behavior. Yeah. How do they do what they're currently doing? Yeah. They understand the implication of data quality. Right.
When you mention that, do you need to also mention that when you have understood their behavior, if it's not good enough, it forms the basis for where you start from?
Correct.
Like
So
example,
that's your next 30 days. That's what you then start from
30
the
to
60
60.
days.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Can I say something, sir, Doc?
Yeah.
Yeah, after taking this course, I was so happy because I just checked my statement from Lloyd's Bank. So if I compare the recent statements and the old statements, they never used to have a business glossary on the statement. Now they can explain below the statement what these acronyms means. AB means this, AB means that, AB means that. But I don't know if people can understand what it means, but I realize they've just uh, take this into action. They've embedded the new way of doing business using the data management technique, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's interesting. Okay. That's interesting. So if people are the real reason governance succeed or fails, right? Then there's a principle that I want you to understand. Yeah. And this principle is what? Basically, this principle is that organizations don't change. People do. So we often talk about you hear organizational transformation. What's that? They're talking about, I see organizations itself wakes up one morning and then decide to behave differently. No, it doesn't. There is nothing like organizational transformation. An organization changes only when the people inside it change how they think, right? How they make decisions, and of course how they work. Yeah. So think about major transformation happening today. For example, yeah, you have a data governance program which requires people to accept ownership and accountability. Yeah. You have a digital transformation that requires people to adopt new ways of working. Yeah. You have an AI implementation requiring people to understand new risks, responsibilities, controls. You have maybe a data quality program which requires people to stop saying data quality is somebody else's problem. Yeah. So if you look at those 3 or 4 scenarios, for example, that is not organization transforming itself, right? So it's really about people changing the way that they think. Think about the data quality one specifically, right? Oh, it's not our responsibility. We only just create the data, or we only just share it. Okay, but you create the data, surely you are creating it for someone. So, and if you're not interested in creating it up to good quality, what do you think you are passing over to somebody else? Yeah. So you need to let people understand the implication of how they can cause issues downstream. And that's why just buying technology does not automatically create this transformation. It's really the mindset, right? I agree. You can use technology to automate processes. You can use technology to create workflows. Of course, you can use technology to catalog data, for example, right? You can also monitor data quality. It can even help to implement controls, right? So you can have automated controls and all that. But it cannot create belief. It cannot create ownership. It cannot create accountability. It cannot create commitment. So if you have all the fancy stuff that technology can do, but people don't believe that data is an asset and should be treated properly. People don't believe that they need to follow the issue management process. For example, they don't believe that the policy should be adhered to. Right? They don't believe that data must be owned to have accountability around it. Nothing's going to happen. Right? These are real human behaviors. Yeah. They are human behaviors. So for me, I always make this distinction. It's very clear. Technology enables change. People are the ones that will deliver the change. And if you don't focus on the people up front, you're going for technology, you're definitely going to fail. Yeah? Yeah, you're going to fail. So that's number one principle. That organizations don't change, but people do. Yeah. Secondly, you also need to think about, in terms of your principle, what behavior exactly are you trying to change? What behavior are you trying to change? Because you cannot just be working, because you're not clear in the behavior that you are trying to change. You cannot focus on it. Right? And then people start asking you, so what do you mean? Why why do we, what exactly is the behavior? Right? What is preventing that change from happening? Yeah. And how do we then make the new behavior part of everyday work? So three things, right? What needs to change? What needs to be done differently? What is preventing that change from happening? Right? And then how do you make that new behavior that you want to be part of everyday work? Yeah. It is people that do governance, right? So you can only achieve it through people. Yeah. Only achieve it through people. So those two principles, they are very, very important, right? Make sure that you are clear the behavior you're trying to change. And then make sure also that you are letting people in the organization know that you are not changing the organization. You're trying to change the way people do what they already do. You get what I mean? Yeah. So I think if you are clear on those two things, you're probably about 20-25% on your way to getting people then wanting to listen to what you want to say. If you're not clear, you're just saying that, oh, we need a change, you're just saying that, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need ownership, we need stewardship, we need data catalog, we need policy, we need standards. Really, that is you are tending to change. You see what I mean? So it's not the delivering of those documents that matters. It's the way and the perception, the belief that people have around data. That's what you really want to change. Yeah. Any question from anyone? Okay. I hope you know there's an exercise at the end of this session. So you may not connect the dots now. Maybe when you get the exercise, you'll be able to connect the dots. Right. Now, obviously, everything I'm talking about is not very easy. It's not something that you're just going to. It sounds very easy when I'm saying, okay, just say it's people that you want to change or they want to change your organization. But it's very difficult, right? It's very difficult. Changing that behavior is very difficult. And why is it difficult? Yeah, why is it difficult? Here's the challenge. People do not change simply because we tell them to change. So they're not going to change because we're just telling them to change. Yeah. So when you introduce data governance, you introduce AI governance, you introduce a new data quality process, for example, or even a new technology, the first thing people naturally will ask you is, so why do we need this tool? Which means that, or why do we need this process? Which what they're asking you really. Yeah. So if they're asking you that why do I need this process? Why do we need the policies? Why do we need the standards? Why do we need the data owner? What do you think they're asking you? What is the real question they're asking? Anyone?
Why they need to change the way they do things?
Correct. So really what they're asking you is, why should I change? They're not interested in your policy and your standards. They just know that it's something that they're not doing today. They're bringing it. So why didn't they do it already working? Right? Think about the person who has performed their job successfully for 10, 15, 20 years. Suddenly you arrive, right? They left university before you finish university, before you even maybe start primary school. Suddenly you then arrive, you say, oh, you're arriving with a new framework. You're talking about DAMA. You're talking about policies. You're saying they need workflow, right? Or maybe even sometimes you're saying that they need a new tool. But they are thinking, what is wrong with the way I currently work? I've been doing this for years. we declared surplus last year. We had a good turnover. I got my bonus and stuff like that. Right? Is this going to make my job more difficult? So that's really what they're asking. Or that's why they are really asking what they're asking you. Is it going to make my job more difficult? Yeah. And more importantly, can I trust this new approach? Can I trust this new approach? No one's going to follow you anywhere if they don't trust you. Yeah. So, transparency, trust is very, very important in this job. Right? So it's not only trust in the approach, but the trust in that you know what you're talking about. You see what I mean? Yeah. And for me, those are legitimate questions. And any data governance program that want to be successful, you need to answer them. Because they are legitimate questions. Do you agree that they are legitimate questions?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So as anybody in your current job, have you been asked to do something differently ever before? It doesn't have to be the policy or standard, but have you been asked to do something differently in your current job before?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And what was your initial reaction?
Resistance. You think it's more work to your workload.
And what did you do? Did you follow them, or did you just
You talk with
No,
your colleagues, maybe.
okay, you go and
no,
gossip with your colleagues
Hmm.
and grumble? Okay. Most people generally continue doing what has worked for them until there's a compelling reason to do something different. Trust me, you don't have any stick to beat anyone to follow any policy or standards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want you to immediately label it as resistance. Again, I see a lot of people interviewing, uh, and you ask them tell me about the time you dealt with a difficult stakeholder, or you encounter someone who resistant, and they're talking about they didn't want to adopt your policy, they don't want. Okay, so what did you do about it? I told them that it's best practice to have policy and standards. She just lost the job unless you are obviously being interviewed by someone who doesn't know what they are doing to. Yeah. So don't immediately label it as resistance. It might not be resistance. The problem may simply be that you have not demonstrated the value of the change. Yeah. If you want someone to take ownership of data, for example, you want them to complete additional controls, you want them to document metadata, or you want them to investigate data quality issues, you know, uh, you firstly need to make them understand why it matters, not just why it matters to data governance team. They are the one who is hired to come and manage data, not them. Right? But why it matters to them and why it matters to the organization. So again, this is a classic example where ChatGPT cannot solve this for you, because ChatGPT will give you a blanket answer. And what is in the head of that finance officer clearly might not be the data that ChatGPT has been trained on. You see what I mean? So you need to really get involved with people, understand why, you know, uh, why they feel the way they feel. Yeah. Behavior begins to change when people believe three things. What do you think those three things are? So have you ever changed any behavior to anything at all? And what are the things that made you change your mind?
If you stand to gain from that change.
Okay,
or
good,
at same time to see the benefit of that change to them and to the organization.
good. Okay. What else?
The impact of the change.
Okay, yes. Okay, yes. Okay. I'm looking for one more.
They have a
If it makes
particular pain point.
Sorry?
A pain point.
Okay, the pain. Okay, fine, fine. Yeah. I think it's about yes, I think it's correct. Yeah, I think you said what I'm looking for anyway. Uh People will change when they believe that change benefits them, right? They will change when they see that it solves a real problem for them. Yeah, they're solving a real problem. They will change when they see that it is worth the effort. Either you are reducing the time they are spending on doing something, or you're totally stopping them from having to do it, and then you're doing it better with the way you are bringing. That is why successful data governance requires more than just policies, more than frameworks, and more than just technology. It requires the following things. And this is the tool that you need to talk about at interviews: communication, education, engagement, and trust. Yeah. You need to have a very, very good communication plan and strategy on how you're going to communicate the data governance approach, how it benefits the business, and not how it benefits the business as a blanket approach. How it benefits each business function. The benefit for finance, for marketing, for sales, for customer service. The problem it solves for each business function. And then maybe some KPIs or return on investments for each area. Needs to be clear in your communication plan and strategy. And then education is about data literacy. Yeah. So that they understand the implications and stuff like that. And then engagement plan and strategy is also very important. You cannot bab somebody's head without them being present. So you can't just be rolling out workflows for the business to use without engaging them and getting them involved and letting them see how better thing. The last one is trust. This one is absolutely important. And obviously, technology is not going to give you trust. Frameworks not going to give you trust. Policy is not going to give you trust. So what's going to give you trust? What's going to give you trust is you yourself, right? Your approach, your mannerism, the way you portray yourself and data governance itself, right? I always talk about the 3 V's. Your voice, yeah? Your voice needs to propel that you really believe in what you're saying. You can't be timid. It's talking about somebody, a change to people, new way of doing something, and then you are timid about it. Yeah? So your voice, this is the first V. The second V is your vocabulary. You need to speak business-friendly language so that they understand what you're saying. If you're coming to me and you are speaking French to me, has anybody been somewhere before where you are in a gathering, for example, and some people just switch from the normal language, maybe English, just start speaking French? What is your first reaction? Oh, they're trying to say something that they don't want me to understand.
Yeah.
And then you be on your guards. The same thing here. If you start speaking technical jargons to them, they're thinking, I don't trust you, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Unfortunately, I cannot sign this policy. I cannot ask my people to start using it because I don't understand it. Yeah. So when somebody isn't adopting your governance program, don't immediately ask, why are you resisting? That's the wrong question. You should ask better questions. Have we given you a compelling reason to change? Have we shown to you clearly how it benefits you? The real problem that we are solving for you, and why it is worth for you to make this change. Because if people don't understand the why, then you cannot expect them to embrace the how. As simple as that. Yeah. So that's where you need to start from. Any question from anyone?
You said there are 3 V's. You mentioned voice, vocabulary, and what's the last one?
Good. I'm glad that you asked. What do you think it is? I deliberately missed it out. And that's why I said everybody has any question. So well done. But what do you think it is? I said something. Okay, so when I said that, I then said how it benefits them, I solve the real problem, and the what. So how can you,
Division.
good, how can you summarize that? It's a vision. Well done, Abdulrahman. That was deliberate, and that's why I said those three things. So you need to wrap it up with the vision. Because without their vision, making sure that the data governance approach and your strategy or whatever, your own vision is aligns with their vision, it's not going to work. Is what I mean?
So, can I ask, when you say your vocabulary, does that mean so use as layman terms as possible as opposed to the
Yes,
data language?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
because the finance officer doesn't know anything about data lineage.
Yeah.
They will understand more that, okay, we need to trace the data where it is created, where it is used, and where it ends up. Then they will know what
Okay.
I'm talking about. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Got it. Good.
Okay.
Um, so now they give you a scenario at an interview. They will give you maybe data quality issue scenario and stuff like that. And they ask you to come up with a solution, how will you approach it and stuff like that. A lot of people start digging into we need a data quality framework, I'm going to design the 6 dimensions and stuff like that. I've learned this throughout my career. Data governance has never really been about data problem. Yeah. It's really the people problem. Why? Number one, because data doesn't does absolutely nothing by itself, right? The data doesn't really do anything by itself. You create it, and if you don't do anything with it, it just then sit there. Who uses it? It's people that use it. Yeah, it doesn't define itself. Yeah, it does not possess itself. It does not classify itself. It does not improve itself, and it certainly does not govern itself. What does all these things?
People.
People.
Good. So even if they present you with some data quality problem scenario, even if you're going to go on to say, okay, yeah, we're going to define the 6 dimensions and stuff like that, we're going to do the framework, we're going to have an issue management process, please, the first place we start with is to talk about, the people. Yeah. When customer data is entered incorrectly, data didn't make that decision. Did it? Someone did. So putting in place your framework and your dimensions and everything, it's not going to make much difference. Yeah. When sensitive information, for example, is incorrectly classified, someone that did it is not data that classifies itself. So you might have a classification standards and stuff like that, but it still happens where data is being, incorrectly classified, right? So it's the people. When a critical data element, for example, doesn't have an agreed definition, who's responsible? It's not the data, it's the people, right? It's the people that uses different terminologies, different definitions for the same data. When a data quality issue remains unsolved for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, that's not simply a technical problem. It's also the people. Are you prioritizing your issue management log? And are you tracking how long it's taking to resolve issues? Are you posting on those KPIs? Are you educating people on, the implication of, data quality issues just sitting down without being resolved? The implication it has on the business, right? Behind every one of these situations, there's usually a question. It's usually a question. And what do you think those questions are? Usually a question. And that question is around maybe 3 or 4 things. Anyone? Okay. I think number 1 is ownership. Yeah. Who is the person that creates the data? Who is the person that classifies the data? For example, accountability. Who is accountable? Is somebody ultimately accountable for the definition of a CDE? What is the process for tracking how long data quality issues is taking? and then behavior. Yeah. Behavior can build a very nice data catalog, but somebody still has to be able to define data. Right? When AI came and people started, a lot of companies started doing, they wanted to do AI governance, what surprises them the most is the fact that there has to be a human in the loop. But everybody think that, okay, once you have AI, that's it. No, there still has to be a human in the loop. Someone has to investigate the data quality issues. Somebody has to be the steward, and somebody has to be the owner. Yeah, has to be the owner.
Sorry, Doc. So the four again you said is who owns the data, who is accountable for the data, and then what is the process of tracking an issue log, and before
It's not just the issue log. What are the processes that is involved in your governance?
okay.
And of course, when I'm
Right.
using governance, I'm not talking about data governance. I'm talking about
Yeah.
entire thing. Okay. And then the behavior of people.
Behavior. Okay. All right.
Yeah, the behavior is very important because you know why? Okay, so for example, if I say to you that at Berkeley Data Strategies, we have duplicated student records, what do you think is the fundamental problem?
Maybe
can be
the customer-facing person didn't enter it twice.
So it's the behavior, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The quality of your data is a reflection of the behavior of your people. It's not a technical thing. If you want better data, you don't only look at the data. Look at the processes that are creating that data. Look at the decisions affecting the data. Look at the accountability surrounding it, right? And of course, very importantly is looking at the behavior of the people who are managing it. Because at the end of the day, data doesn't govern itself. People govern the data. And when you change the behavior around data, you automatically change the quality and the value of the data itself. There are many organizations where I've worked where I tell them before any policy, any standard, any framework or anything, we are doing data literacy first. We're changing the mindset. When you did your data, when you did the training, some of you, if I remember, I always give an example of what I did in a bank, right? Just take notes. Change the mindset without writing any framework because there was no time. And they need to make change quickly, right? It's about writing on stick notes and sticking it on the walls and then writing the implication. If you continue to create customer records that are duplicated, customers are having data that they have missing fields, right? It's going to lead to regulatory fine. When we are fined, obviously we're going to pay that fine from our turnover. It's going to affect our profits. So surely your bonus is what you are burning. Some of them buy shares in the bank. So your pension, your retirement plan is what you are playing with. And worst case scenario, they can revoke our license. So you're not going to have a job. Because there will not be any bank for you to work. That worked quickly. To change things before we then spend time to then start putting in place frameworks. Yeah. Any question from anyone?
Yeah, and that's actually connected to the vision because now you're like painting the picture of the end goal of whatever behavior that your current practice, the implication of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Doc, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just like you were saying that you also need, I remember, if I remember correctly, you were talking about the first 30 days whereby you need to see people's behavior, right? When you start your job. So what happens now for someone who gets a role, but you are working remotely, you are away from the people, you don't even see them at all. Maybe it's a
No, you don't have to
full-time
see
role.
them. You don't have to see them. You just need to ask those questions that we discussed.
All right.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to see them.
All
You
right.
don't have to
Because
see
I
them.
was thinking if you ask them questions, they can give you an answer that you want to know, to hear. Let's say, okay, we do this, but in actual ground, they are not doing what they have told you. So I was thinking maybe you need to be
Or
involved to see how.
if you suspect that, what you can do is you can set up 30 minutes, 1 hour meeting and say, okay, can we just walk through the process that you follow? Just walk me through it, and then you can see what they are doing, right? You don't have to see them. Yeah,
All right.
you can't see them. Yeah, you got to see them. Yeah. The next thing I'll talk about with this slide is, one of the philosophies behind grounded governance. Yeah. One of the mistakes that organizations make is believing that data governance it comes along and then suddenly creates accountability. So again, you see a lot of people, oh, the data is not trusted because there's nobody responsible for it. Yes, we need data governance. And then they hire people and stuff like that. I disagree. Yeah, I disagree. Data governance is, if you don't have, data governance is not the answer to lack of accountability. Why do you think I said that?
Because it's not it's a combination of policies and people and the systems. It's not just one thing. So if the people are not inputting the data correctly or managing it correctly, then it befits the purpose. Just like you said, it's a people. It's data is all about the people. Not the policies on their own or the systems on their own.
Yeah. I totally disagree that governance comes along and then suddenly you have accountability. Why? Because for me, accountability always exists. So someone called me this afternoon and they want to come and see me in the office. I said I'm not around. I'm in Kuala Lumpur. I'll be back in 3 months. Because I didn't think that they need to come all the way from to my office to come and ask me the question that they're going to ask about, how do they establish ownership? So this is the point that most people make. I say, oh, nobody's taking ownership. It's very difficult to identify data owners. Yeah, of course it'll be difficult because you are selling it like something that is new. You are coming to do it because you are now established data governance or data management or whatever. You've now established it, so you need no. It already exists, like because long before any data governance program is kicked off, for example, somebody must already be creating the data. Yeah, someone's already creating it. Data governance is not it's not when you start data governance program that you start creating data, right? It's already been someone's already creating it. And then usually most times, 9 out of 10 times, it's not just created. The creation of it and the use of it also needs to go through some line manager approval, right? As the line manager, someone that is signing it off. Yeah. There is also someone that is using that data. It might be bad data, but they're using it anyway. They may have duplicated customers, but they're using it. Forget about whether they're making the right decisions with it or not. Of course, they're also protecting it and they are sharing it. A lot of companies have done GDPR compliance and stuff like that. So they're already doing these things. Yeah. Right? They're already doing it. So it's not data governance that is bringing it. Don't let them see that, oh, because you are not doing data governance, because you have been hired, that's why you're suddenly talking about accountability. They'll push back. Yeah. Now, think about the organization where you work today. And it doesn't matter where you work. It can be anywhere. It can be hospital, it can be school, it can be bank, it can be anywhere. Somebody enters your customer's information, right? Somebody approves supplier record. Yeah. Someone produces the financial reports. Somebody decides who can access sensitive information. Some companies even have classified data that is not sensitive as sensitive. They are even overdoing it. Right? Somebody shares that data with another department. or third party. Those responsibilities they are not new. They already exist, right? It doesn't matter whether you have document for them or not. That's not the point. The point is they already exist. So your job is to go to formalize it. Yeah, formalize it. If you bought the grounded governance and you read it, you will have seen already that it doesn't start, having grounded governance doesn't start by creating another layer of bureaucracy. Right? So it's not about going to organization and then trying to create another layer. We need owner, we need this, that. No, it starts by asking, who is already doing what with the data. Today, who creates it? Who makes decisions about it? Right? Who is the person that understands the meaning when people are confused or not sure about the data? Who is the Joe Blokes that they go to? Who is responsible for the quality of it? Who checks that the address that we are sending the invoice to is the right address? And who is the person that is using it to make business decisions? Who checks that how many new customers have we acquired this month? All you need to do is just take those existing responsibilities and make them visible, explicit, and then give them accountability. Right? That's it. Enhance it, bring it to the forefront, formalize it. That's an important distinction about trying to make it seem like, So if I walk into an organization, right, and I tell someone, uh, Temi Akindele or Temi Brown, congratulations, you are now a data owner, right? You're now a data owner. But that responsibility has no connection to your actual role. What have I done? A marketing officer. And I'm saying you're not a data owner. It has nothing to do with your job as a marketing officer. What have I done?
You're
Confused
saddling them with
them.
another task.
Good. I have created bureaucracy, right? But if I identify that person or somebody who already has that authority or the authority to make decisions about the data, and then I formalize the accountability, what have I done?
You've affirmed what you
The
do
role,
already.
okay.
You've just made that person visible.
Yeah. So I've created a practical approach to governance, right? That's what grounded governance is. So I want you to remember that governance doesn't manufacture accountability. So a lot of people walking around companies or going to interviews and saying that, oh, if they ask you, for example, if there's no accountability or if there's no data, or what is your approach to identifying data owner? And then, yeah, of course, what we do in the training is correct, but in the practical sense of it, and when you think about how things can go wrong, it's not always about who's interested in the quality of the data, for example, who's already doing some of those things. Formalize it rather than creating a level of bureaucracy. Yeah. It's about formalizing, not just about thinking about how a framework works. It's not about establishing the framework itself. Any question from anyone?
Yes, please. I got my hand up.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, in the process of bringing visibility to existing roles like data owners, if I discover that someone would be able to do it better than the person doing it currently, is it okay to change things?
What is your definition of doing what better?
Okay, so for example, maybe where I work currently, the head of admissions is supposed to be the data owner. I'm just giving an example. However, there is an assistant head of admissions who has more time, who could do it better. Is it okay to turn things around?
Yeah, it's okay to turn things around. That's fine. Only that it might be more difficult to get this new person to warm up quicker than it will the person that is already doing it. So again, my own approach would be at least to start with that person first to formalize it, right? You can also have, you can, more or less, I'm looking for the right word now. You can have a delegate. You see what I mean?
Okay.
So you may then suggest that other person to be a delegate. At least it's not a total change from the beginning. You see what I mean? Yeah. Because remember what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we are not creating a bureaucracy, right? Not total change, but starting first with what. And it's not a set in stone. It doesn't mean that you have to, you have to be stuck with that person forever. As you mature and you begin to change more people's behavior and stuff, and more people begin to see the value, then it becomes easier to let the other people then take on the responsibilities and the accountability rather than, without them thinking that it is an extra layer of work because
Okay.
you've taken the whole organization on the journey. You got it.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Very good question. Rebecca.
Now, I was going to just say, for some roles, it may be okay to put two people on it, like data stewards, because then you can have two data stewards, but then just have one owner. So maybe if it's a role like that one, you could put both two employees or two staff members on it as opposed to just the one.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely correct.
By the way, when we're talking about putting two people, are we referring to like the CDE, like one particular CDE? Oh, right. The role of a CDE is having one person, two persons. Is that what you can say here?
Sorry, I
Well,
didn't get what you said.
When we are talking about like data owner, data steward, are we attributing it to one CDE? For example, like one CDE is for one, I mean, one data owner is assigned to one CDE. So
No,
in
no, no,
this
no, no,
case,
no. Every CD should have an owner, not must. You don't have to have a data owner. Dama says you must, but in reality, you don't have to. But if you are going to have ownership, a CDE should have an owner. An owner can own many CDEs.
yeah, okay, yeah, because I think this conversation came up in our one of our last meetings about whether
Yeah.
whether it's one to one or one
There
to
can only
many.
be there can only be one captain in a ship. A captain may be the captain of many ships.
Sir, I
So,
think what came up in our group was about if you can have many data stewards, like because it
Yes,
was
you can
more
have
like
many stewards. You can have many stewards for a particular CD. Yes, of course. Finance, for
okay,
example, is very broad. HR is very broad. So if you have um give me an HR CD, for example, maybe um
Employee ID.
payroll. Sorry, employee ID exactly. Employee ID will be used by payroll. It will be used by talent acquisition. It will be used by training department. So HR is broad. So many
so
people might be the subject matter of those areas.
I'm sorry, sir. So, for example, under the consumer domain now, so we have customer ID, CDE, date of birth, email address, and CDEs like that under consumer. Do they have to have different data steward, or could a
You
data
can have
steward
it can be the
handle?
same person. It can be many
They
people.
can
It
be the
doesn't matter.
same
The
person.
name is not irrelevant. It's not the name of the person. It's just that every CDE you should have a steward, and then you can have many stewards to one CDE.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
Noted.
so
Yeah.
whenever issues come up, if you have several people tied to one CDE, how do
Mhm.
you navigate?
Then you get them all engaged because there must be a reason why you have many stewards. So they probably uh they probably subject matter expert in different aspects of that data, how data is used. You got it?
We
Okay.
got it.
I just wanted to add that sometimes, and this is based on my workplace, it's because that CDE can needs to be attended to all the time. So an example would be student ID for us. there must always be, maybe there's a duplicate issue, there must always be someone available to do it. So for that particular one, we have more than one steward, because if one is on leave, the other has to take it up. It's not something we leave for even a day. It's something that needs to be done, like it's an urgent thing to be attended to. So everyone in admissions knows how to do it, because we can't afford not to have it resolved quickly.
Great. Great. Thanks. Wow. So if governance should make existing accountability visible, right, to formalize it, the next question then is, how do we make it work in practice? Yeah, how do we make it work in practice? We should start with a very simple principle, right, which is what is obviously communicated also in the grounded governance. We should stop asking people to become somebody different. As simple as that. Yeah, help them become better at what they already do, rather than trying to make them become somebody who push back. That distinction is fundamental. Yeah, if somebody works in finance, you don't want them to become a data governance professional, right? So when you are doing the literacy, it's not about training them about to become you, for example, right? You need to be showing them how what you're asking them to do, what you are bringing, how it's going to make them become better in what they already do. If someone works in HR, they work in operations, they work in risk management, they are in marketing, you know, don't want them to become another data governance person, right? Sitting on top of their actual job already. They're going to push back. Yeah. You want them rather to understand how managing data properly helps them to perform their existing role better. That is how governance becomes embedded rather than being imposed. So again, they ask you at an interview, how do you ensure that data governance is embedded in your organization? And then you're saying that I deliver policies and standards, I create frameworks, I then give them Colibra, I give them purview so that they can raise issues. You meet somebody like me at the interview, I'll just be laughing at you. Yeah. The way to ensure that it's embedded is making sure that you're changing the behavior, making people understand, how what you are bringing to manage data, how it helps them to perform their job role better. Then they will be embedded. They are continuing to do their job. They are then adopting what you are bringing. That's what means for something to be embedded, to be included. And that is why grounded governance is built around 4 characteristics. It's very, very practical because governance must solve real business problems. So if you're not solving problems, it's not practical. They will start thinking, so what are you doing? So exactly what does your framework mean? What have you guys been doing? Yeah. Secondly, it should be business led. It should be led by the business. Why? The business are the ones that create, they own, they use, and then they derive value from data. I think we have all agreed on that now anyway. Okay. Berkeley data strategies alumni, you know that already. That IT does not own data. Yeah. Yeah. And then it should be sustainable because governance must survive beyond your initial program. Start small, think big, you scale fast. So if it's not sustainable, you start small, you die small. As simple as that. I've seen many programs like that. And critically, it must be human-centered because ultimately people determine whether governance succeeds. It's not your framework. It's not your policy. It's not your standard. It's not your tool. So instead of telling a salesperson, you need to improve data quality because our data governance framework requires it. Please tell them If customer information is accurate, you then spend less time correcting records. You understand your customer better, and you have a greater opportunity to sell effectively. This person is a salesperson. You're telling them how they're going to sell more effectively. Basically, you're telling them how they're going to be better at their job. Do you not think they will listen to you? Because you have now made governance to become relevant to their world. That's the difference between governance that exists on paper and governance that exists in behavior, in practice. Yeah, it's about making better data management part of how people already work. Practical, business-led, sustainable, and human-centered. These are the approaches and the principles that are missing in organizations. Many of them that you'll be going into now have already started, or they've started before they failed. So just going to talk about policy and standards and stuff like that. I'm starting to get some feedback from interviews that people are coming and beginning to sound like they are delivering training. I think some people have mastered the act of, because we have learning management system and they just watch it. And when they go to interview, they start talking like Dr. Ade. Yeah. So these are the things we're talking about rather than talking about, framework and stuff like that. Yeah, again, I'm just trying to talk more about why data governance programs fail. Keep adding work to people who already are busy. You introduce governance and then you make it. What you hear is that people are saying, another committee, again, another framework, another form you need us to complete, data privacy impact assessment. So if you are doing that, obviously people are going to resist. So it's not about telling them that, oh, you need another committee, you need a framework, you need another, you need to create another form that they're going to be completing, you need another issue management process. They're going to push back, right? They will definitely push back. So now, this is also very important. This is another way to obviously win the hearts of interviewers, right? In terms of how do you communicate? How do you get buy-in? Right? How do you get support? Yeah. How do you convince people to come on the journey with you? Yeah. So definitely it's not about all those things that data management requires. That's not their job. It's your own job. But how does it affect them again? So imagine, put yourself in this scenario that I'm going to describe to you. Yeah. Imagine that you have a full-time job already. Yeah. And you have targets that you have to meet in your job. You have customers, you have deadlines. And then you also have some operational responsibilities in your job. Then someone arrives, calls themselves a data governance manager, and they say, we need you to attend this monthly meeting. We need you to complete this template. We need you to upload this catalog. And then we need you to follow this new process. What do you hear in your head? Or what are you thinking as this person is talking? What are you thinking about? What do you think they are trying to do to you? Or what would you think they are trying to do to you?
I think when they say the word new, it means they need to add more new work to my existing one.
So they're giving you more work.
Yeah.
And if governance feels like additional work with no obvious benefits, adoption becomes difficult. Yeah. So grounded governance changes the conversation. Instead of approaching the business and saying, here is what governance needs you to do. Right? I definitely prefer you to say, what is making your job difficult? How can better governance make it easier? Yeah. There's a change there. Because here now you are starting with their problem, not what you require as data governance team. You're not starting with your framework that you need to deliver. Yeah. Maybe they spend hours reconciling conflicting reports, for example. Maybe they cannot find the data they need. Maybe nobody knows which definition of customer is correct. Or maybe they repeatedly correct the same data quality issues over and over. Yeah. So by starting there, they're solving their problem, isn't it? They then don't see data governance as a burden. They see data ownership giving them somebody accountable for decisions. They see metadata helping them to understand data. They see data quality controls reducing rework. They see a data catalog helping them to find trusted data. They see standards removing ambiguity. So they ultimately then see data governance as removing work instead of creating work. And they will warm up to you, to invite you to their meetings. Right? So really, people need to stop selling governance as another responsibility. You should sell it as the removal of friction. You shouldn't ask, how do we get people to do more governance? No. You should ask instead, how can governance help people to do their existing jobs better? That's one question. Only that one question completely changes the conversation. Simple as that. These are the approaches that you need to be talking about at interviews, the challenges that the organization was facing before you joined, and the value that you added, how you turn things around. People want to hire problem solvers. Yeah? Because you could have gone into an organization who was doing the total opposite of what we described here. And then you will have come in to do it the proper way. Yeah? Behavior before technology. Behavior before technology. This is the most important lesson. I say it to anyone that I've learned in the last 26 years in this work. Technology changes what is possible. Yeah. Behavior determines what actually happens. I've seen many organizations. They start with technology. Yeah. I'm sure I've I've been involved in many, many programs where we're just tearing down their Colibra, for example. I'm telling them that I don't want to hear anyone in this company talking about Colibra for now. Erase it in your mind to have it. A lot of companies have become very good at buying technologies. Yeah, these vendors, they wine and dine them. And then before they know it, maybe some of them are drunk, they just sign the check. Yeah. But technology alone does not create good. It doesn't create good governance. You can buy it, best platform in the world. You still have exactly the same problem, the same organizational problem that you had before. Yeah. Think about it. Let's think about it as we wrap up this evening. Let's think about it. So, has anybody seen any software, or do you know of any software that can fix poor data ownership?
No.
Have you seen any tool or software that can make somebody genuinely accountable?
No.
Okay. Do you think, or do you know of any platform that can automatically is the keyword, eliminate years of bad habits?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All of you like technology, you are working in tech. So everybody wants to see Colibra. You want to see Informatica. You're looking for Purview. They are great tools. I'm not saying that they're not great tools, but can any of these technology stop departments from making inconsistent decisions about the same data?
No.
No.
Oh.
No.
So what technology can do is to expose these problems. It can provide workflows. It can provide controls. It can give alerts. It can also provide evidence. But ultimately, people still have to act. Yeah.
Mm.
So now let's think about something else. Let's imagine something else. So imagine your data quality tool. Yeah. The tool identifies 5,000 customer records with missing information. That's fantastic, right? The technology has done this good job. Technology is telling us that we have 5,000 customer records with missing information. So what? After that, what happens? Who owns that issue? Is it technology? The people?
It's the people.
People.
Who investigates the root cause?
The people.
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 Who decides whether it is important?
The
The
people.
people.
Who fixes the process that created the problem?
The people.
People.
Who ensures it doesn't happen again?
The
The
people.
people.
So we see that this problem is not really a technology problem. So the question shouldn't be about technology. That governance, accountability, and behavior questions. And this is why I said that behavior before technology. Yeah. I'm not saying that technology is not important. Of course it is. I'm just saying that, get the human operating model right first.
Yeah.
Define your ownership, establish accountability, clarify decision rights, understand the behaviors that you need. Then, only then, use technology to enable, to automate, and then to scale the behaviors. Otherwise, what you'll be doing is you will be automating dysfunction, and then you'll be calling it transformation. This is what many organizations did in the late 1990s, in the boom when they were hiring BAs, project managers, everybody is BA, project manager. They're just pulling down systems, they're transformation, they're calling transformation. They were just automating dysfunction. Because if ownership is unclear, the accountability is weak, and then the behaviors are wrong, technology will simply help you to do the wrong things faster and at a greater scale. This is why AI governance is now really at the forefront of everything. Because if you're not governing AI, you are going to be automating dysfunction. And then the impact is going to be faster. And then it's going to be at greater scale. Yeah. So the next series, next week, I'm going to go into AI. Right. So we're going to stop here today. So we take another, maybe not next week, maybe week after, but I said at the beginning that it's going to be 3 series. So I'll go into AI governance next time. Right. But I want you to remember, as we finish today, technology changes what is possible. People determine what actually happens. Behavior before technology. Every